I would like to offer up some opinion here about Valve basically killing Counter-Strike on the Mac. Now, Valve says that the number of users on the Mac playing Counter-Strike is less than 1% of the total. Obviously, you have to put another couple of things here into perspective. First of all, when you have a port, the way the port of CSGO was on the Mac, in which you have the hardware, but the port itself on the Mac drops frames all the time and stutters, people end up not playing on the Mac, even though you have the port. They might actually choose to go and install Boot Camp and on their Mac hardware playing on Windows, because on the same hardware is going to have a much better performance. So Valve should think about here, hey, why is it that people were not playing as much on their Macs? Well, this is one of the reasons. So for example, I have a Mac Pro. If I install, at that time, if I installed CSGO on my Mac Pro on Mac OS, the performance was not good, really. The same thing if on any other previous laptop that I had with Intel processor. But if I go and I boot my Mac Pro on Windows and install CSGO there, it runs most maps as 300 plus frames a second. And this is in 1440p with everything in high. So the hardware is obviously there. Now, one thing that I think a lot of people get wrong, is like, why would you buy a Mac to game? People are not doing that. They are not going to say, hey, I'm going to get a gaming computer, let me buy a Mac. That's not what happens. People buy Macs for their work. They buy Macs because they're studying. Those are the two main reasons. Now, they already bought the computer for the main parts of their lives, studying and working. Why would they go and buy yet another computer just for gaming? So they want to game on the computer that they already have. That's why you have Mac gamers. Not gonna say that everyone is like that, but this is by far the vast majority. So blaming people for their decisions to buy a hardware to cover their education and work first, it's kind of insane. So think about it. We had the port for macOS that was not great. The performance wasn't really, they never really worked on performance on that port. And then saying, hey, we're not going to do it because there's not enough people playing on it. Think about the other way around. What if you would go and really make a proper port of the one of the most played games ever for Mac? Suddenly everyone else that uses Macs will say, hey, maybe now I can play because it plays better than it played before. I don't need Windows and I don't need to buy another computer. So Valve should definitely consider making the port to Mac and adding users, selling more, because honestly, that's kind of a little bit absurd, mainly now considering that our Apple Silicon computers that we've been buying are pretty powerful. I mean, I have an M2 Max 16-inch with everything in maximum, including storage. That thing was not cheap, and that thing is a beast, and I'm pretty sure it could play Counter-Strike 2 with everything in maximum if they would make a decent port. So for myself, I am pretty disappointed. I play Counter-Strike multiple times a week, and I would absolutely love to see Valve bringing this there. I don't own a PC per se. I have only Macs, and so far I have been playing Counter-Strike on Boot Camp on my Mac Pro, but I'm not going to be keeping my Mac Pro for much longer. That is an Intel machine that consumes 250 watts to 300 watts just by being switched on. And that's 10 times more than my Apple Silicon. So at some point I will sell that computer, or I'm just going to stop using it. And unfortunately, I will have to be one of those players that I will have to stop playing Counter-Strike 2. Yeah. Valve, I hope that you see the videos that people are making. I hope that greed doesn't stay on the way, and that you bring this game that we like so much for us to come and play. Thanks for listening.